Giants 21, Chargers 18. Welcome to Giants Nation. I'm your host, Bobby Skinner, here with my co-host, the Football Grump. And it's week one, baby. Not week one. I'm flustered because this is not a familiar feeling for New York Giants fans. It's the first victory podcast of the year, first victory podcast of the Giants Nation show era. And Jaxson Dart is 1-0. The Giants become the first 0-3 team to beat a 3-0 team since 2008. But again, most importantly, it just feels good to get a win on the board. And again, be 1-0 in the Jaxson Dart era. There's plenty to clean up with Jaxson Dart. I'll do a film breakdown on him. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for that. Some plays we'll talk about that he didn't do well in this game. But he had good moments. He looked composed, and they won the damn game, which is what football is all about. Grump, how are we feeling? You were in the stadium. How are you doing?
Electric vibes in the stadium right from the get-go. Started on the train in, almost like it was week one. It wasn't, but it was almost like it was week one. Night and day difference from the Chiefs game the week before. Plenty that went wrong in this game, and we're going to get into all of that, but enough that went right against a good team, a 3-0 team, but a good team to sneak out a victory. Pretty close to what I predicted too, score-wise. And it was off, I think I guessed 24-20, right?
I can't remember, but I think that is important for the context because we're not going to look back at this game and being like, man, Jaxson Dart just lit it up. His stats for the day are 13-20, 111 yards, 1 touchdown, and 0 interceptions. And then 10 carries for 54 yards and 5 sacks. But he didn't have Malik Nabers for the large majority of this game, which I'm sure hurt their game plan quite a bit. And the Chargers are a really good defense, especially against facing a young quarterback. And you have Jesse Minter, who comes from college, who's faced a lot of these college-type offenses, which, again, that's kind of what the Giants ran today, was they ran a version of the Ole Miss offense and not very much of what we've seen from Brian Dale and Mike Kafka, except for the plays they did merge together were spammed quite a bit. Where there wasn't the key mistakes, except for, the fumbled snap. But that's not too big for the moment. That's just a mistake and a bad execution between him and John Michael Schmitz. There wasn't that key mistake, and there looked to be composure without having the panic play or turning something into a turnover. Again, against a good defense that floods the zones, takes away things that you thought were going to be there. He was either the rush. I think third down tells the story, but he did what he had to do, whether it was running the ball or making some passes here and there.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some moments of learning when to throw the ball away and learning when to use the athleticism that you have and situationally, right? It's interesting about the fumbled snap. It happened in the worst part of the field. And it was something that when we saw Jaxson Dart at the Senior Bowl, it was something that he did consistently throughout the days of practice. I think every single day of practice, he fumbled snaps under center. And I kind of just sort of wrote it off because it was never a story in training camp. It wasn't anything in spring. It just seemed like, oh, all right, you got to get used to that. And that was kind of cool that the Senior Bowl took that away for us, but something to monitor going forward for sure. But I mean, not a huge deal, but could have been a disaster.
Yeah. So I do want to let's talk about the things he did really good. But first I want to say this, we always do this on the first win of the year. This is especially important because this is technically a new show, even if it feels like a very familiar show. This is the first win for the New York Giants. People want to hear about the win. This is the first game of Jaxson Dart's era. People want to hear about the New York Giants and Jaxson Dart's first game. Share this with your Giants fans or Giants fan friends. Just copy this link right now as you're listening, whether it's on podcast or whatever, and say, hey, check out this Giants podcast. They're my favorite podcast. Like and subscribe. And if you're hearing this right now, there's going to be a Jaxson Dart film breakdown before nightfall on Monday. So, we're going to be, cranking it out. We'll have a mailbag. We do film reviews. So this is the number one spot, in my opinion, for all your New York Giants content. So subscribe, share. If you're on Apple, subscribe, leave a review, all that good stuff. So let's get into, you'll be glad you did. And appreciate that. Our listeners are the best listeners in the world. They had our, speaking of last week in our old little run-in, they genuinely have our back. So, like I mentioned, the stats for Jaxson Dart, 13-20, 111 yards, 1 touchdown, 10 carries, 54 yards, and a touchdown, then 5 sacks. Where I think I'm most impressed with is third down. Because I thought there was composure on there. He was 7 of 13 conversions there. When he had his hand in it, when they hand off the scab, I'm not going to count that. Like, he played tough and gritty on those third down plays. And like, here was his numbers specifically on third down were 4 for 6, 49 yards passing. So, better than his yards per attempt on the regular ones, and completion percentage. 5 runs for 25 yards, 1 sack, and then a defensive pass interference drawn. And passing wise, like, 2 of my favorite like plays for him passing wise were on third down. Because I have, like, I don't want to go through all these individual notes where I have, like, I watched every throw 3 times already, where I have like really good passing, running, bad, quick game, screen, smokes, and then the not his fault. I have 4 really good passing ones, and 2 of those came on third down. That first drive of the game, they dropped 9 into coverage, right? That can be a little much for a rookie quarterback. What he does is he steps up into the pocket and stresses those underneath defenders that they dropped in and force them, and then just hits a nice backside dig to Malik Nabers there. And then when they were backed up on their own goal line after 2 runs, they show a cover 0 look. Again, these are not easy. This is not just hitting a nice throw versus man coverage. You show cover 0. The defensive ends drop back, taking away the inside breakers. He runs up through the pocket again and directs traffic and finds Darius Slayton. And I went out of order. That backside dig wasn't on third down, but the Daniel Bellinger throw, where it's 3rd and 13, they run the same play that they spammed against the Cowboys, where they run 3 guys vertical and they have the tight end sit in the middle of the field. The defense covers it. He steps up and hits them on there. So and then he had some runs, 3rd and 10 conversions running the ball. I thought third down is where I always look at young quarterbacks and see how you're handling that. And I thought he handled it pretty damn good, Grump.
Yeah, that throw to Darius Slayton was my favorite throw of the day. Again, I'm going to have to like really dissect any game I go to. My memory gets all fuzzy and I don't get the best angle of everything. So I'll have to dive into everything. But right off the rip, that was my favorite throw of the day. Backed up against your own end zone, stayed completely cool and collected, escaped the pocket, was looking to throw the whole way, pulling him in closer to come back to the quarterback and rifled it in there. It felt like a veteran quarterback play. It is pretty clear that the moment is not too big for him. And that's really refreshing to see. And quite frankly, there wasn't a whole lot that I thought was a negative play. Like some of the runs and stuff like that, there plenty of what do I want to say? Like just plenty of extra effort to keep everything going forward, still learning to protect himself, but doing a good job in that regard too, in my opinion.
I worry about that because, one, they're running him between the tackles where you can't really protect himself on that. And he runs like a battering ram, right? Like a 3rd and 4, he ran, and he, like, instead of just taking the first down, he tries to throw this crazy stiff arm. Even that big one that got called back, where he doesn't go down on that. And I don't know how much you could see in the stadium. He hurt his hamstring. I don't know how serious it is, but he was limping. He was, bending over and stretching it. Like he hurt his hamstring at some point too.
Yeah, that had to have happened late in the second quarter.
It did.
Because he kind of went into the locker room, came back, and was fine. So,
yeah.
But I agree with you in terms of protecting himself. And I'm seeing some things like him diving forward so that he doesn't have the slide thing, but he's not taking certain hits. So it's a work in progress. But the hamstring injury, I think, is sort of unrelated to him protecting himself. It's certainly the result of him running being a giant portion of the offense.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that he took 5 sacks, so that's 5 hits right there. And then 10 carries. And I think it was actually 12 carries, but 2 didn't count on the board as penalties. I don't want to do big picture after his first game, but like, you can't live like this forever. Like, that's way too much to toll on. And we're not talking about Jalen Milroe or Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen or like Jaxson Dart. We see how valuable his legs are. They're definitely an asset. They helped him out a ton today. I mean, his first touchdown was a draw touchdown, but he's just going to get hurt if he continues to play like that. And after 6 years of Daniel Jones, I used to get, and after 15 years of Eli, I used to get like pumped up by him putting his shoulder down and stuff. And then after injury, you start to not enjoy that as often. But again, like his legs were an asset, the first touchdown being the draw touchdown, the, third down conversions, running the ball. It's clear, and I think it helps the regular run game as well, too.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I don't want to get rid of it entirely. Like, I hear everything you're saying, but I think the regular running game works because of Jaxson Dart holding onto the ball and running.
And they're going to be zone reads, or he's going to scramble and stuff. I'm not saying like, oh, we got to stop running. Let's get this out of the playbook. It's just you can't do that every single game. Again, it's his first game. They're trying to get him comfortable and acclimated, and I'm sure that was a big part of it. But like the rest of the passing game, like I said, the stats weren't very good. Only 111 passing yards. And I put everything, like I said, into certain categories. I had 4 in the really good passing. I put the Theo Johnson touchdown in there. I know that was a shovel pass, but they talked about how like it ended up being a touchdown, so I'll put that in there. And then there's running plays. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 running plays. For the bad, and I'll just read through these instead of breaking. I had 7. The 3rd and 10 sack on Sale, where the Sale may have been there. The sack where he doesn't throw hot, where you have the free rusher. He's just got to hit the tight end there. A post wheel route where he chucks it to the tight end with Wandale open underneath. The red zone 2nd and 8 takes a sack instead of hitting Wandale. The next play, they ran a man beater concept, got man coverage. Slayton was there, doesn't pull the trigger on that. The fumbled snap, and then he didn't throw that curl on 3rd and long in the 4th quarter and ended up scrambling. Quick game, went 6 for 9, and there's really no bad decisions in the quick game. The 3 out of the 3 incompletions, one was the low to Malik that Malik didn't bring in, another one low to Wandale. 3 screens, smokes, and then I had 3 not his fault. Sack at the end of the 3rd, sack at the beginning of the 4th, and then the 4th and goal throw it up play where I don't know what to think of that. I understand Wandale had the better angle of it, but I also would like Theo Johnson to maybe just go up and snag that. But like that was the right play there. DB breaks it up and it makes sense. I'm not even mad at Wandale for that, but that was, again, that being an incomplete pass is not his fault.
Yeah, I agree, and we were wondering the same thing in the stands about why Wandale is the one who went up for that and not. But it's clearly like a street ball play. I'm not even sure Wandale realized that the guy he bumped into initially was Theo Johnson. Everyone's just kind of trying to do their thing. I was a little, keeping this in the conversation of Jaxson Dart and not getting off into a tangent on red zone play calling or anything like that. I was pleasantly surprised.
Red zone play calling.
Yeah, I mean, I was pleasantly surprised though. I mean, there was nothing that was like a horrendous. There was, I know we just like listed through bad plays, but there was none
of those were horrendous. Like I said,
yeah, exactly. There were no backbreaking plays. There were no I think the worst one was taking the sack on 3rd down. I think in the 3rd quarter, where it's just like you got to throw that one away. You are 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You have 2 guys bearing down on you. Nobody's open. You're outside of the tackle box. Like, you don't have to overtrust your athleticism.
Are you talking about the red zone one?
No, I don't think it was the red zone one.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, like I just mentioned a 7, what I put as bad plays. None of those were terrible. Took a sack on a bang play. The sack where he didn't see hot, that's probably the worst one. If either the fumble or that sack is the worst. Post wheel, I don't know why I threw to the tight end, but again, that whatever. Another sack instead of the check down, like I mentioned in the red zone. Not throwing the red zone trail concept of man coverage and didn't throw the 3rd. Like, none of those are like, what the hell are you doing type of bad plays. Like, he avoided those. And I hope we're not looking back and being like, man, remember how we praised that 111-yard game? But the reality is, like, they got to win. He made good plays. He didn't have any back-breaking mistakes. You saw that gamer ability to him. You saw him use his legs. You saw him make some nice throws over the middle of the field, which was totally lacking from this offense without Russell Wilson. I don't want to go harp on and on and on about Jaxson Dart, with 13 completions for 25 minutes, but like, I was happy with Jaxson Dart's first game. We said before, whether good or bad. This is not going to be the decider of his game. We've seen great quarterbacks have terrible first games. We've seen bad quarterbacks have great first games. So I was excited for him to do that, get a win. And this is why, I was like, if you're going to start him, just start him now. Because now you have the opportunity to go to the Saints and, don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but maybe turn this thing into your 2-0 in your first 2 games.
Yeah. And it's important to remember, too, that a lot of this game plan for this game centered around somebody who wasn't able to play for 75% of the game. So he had to manufacture a not flawless, but pretty close to flawless performance without Malik Nabers. You know what I mean? So
against
throws
against a top 5 defense too.
Yeah, exactly. This was no easy task going into this game. I had said going into this game that if they were going to win, it was going to be on a great defensive performance, which was still pretty true. But if you had asked me what the chances were if Malik Nabers went down in the first quarter, I would have said pretty close to 0%. So it's not a flashy game by any stretch of the imagination, but for a first start, this was all we could have asked for.
Let's talk about the most unfortunate thing from this game, Grump, and that is sadly that Malik Nabers is done he tore his ACL. And, when you see that happen, you're like, please don't be what I think it is. And then it got out at halftime. That's what the news. Usually you don't find out until later that day or the next day it comes out and they do, confirm the tests and stuff. Tore his ACL. His sophomore year is over. That hurts, man. It hurts when any type of player gets an injury like that. And obviously for that personal player, it hurts. When a good player has that type of injury, that would hurt a lot. Let's say, that was, Wan'Dale Robinson, it hurts. But the guy's a top 3 player on your team. It's his second year. It's just the beginning of his second year. And it's the beginning of the new quarterback that you drafted this guy to eventually play for. And you get 3 targets for him before he's just out. I don't want to dissect on how this team moves forward without him. It's unbelievable that Darius Slayton is wide receiver once again. And once again for a rookie quarterback. But here we are. And it's just the thought of the rehab process and him coming back and training camp and how's he doing and giving those updates and how's he look when the season comes back and is he close to what he was before. It's just gutting to think about that. This is day 1 of what's going to be a freaking long, hard process for Malik Nabers. And we've got 13 games left of this season and we don't get to see him for any of them.
It's tough, man. And I know everybody likes to just, look ahead to later on this year. I'm sure discussions will be had and next year we're going to have Malik back. None of this stuff is guaranteed. And the quality of player that returns is never quite the 100% in that first year back. There's a mental part of it that's, trusting your body to respond to cuts and stuff like that. It's a shot to the nuts, man. It doesn't really get too much worse than that. They're going to have to figure out something. It's unfortunate that they don't have the wide receiver room depth that you'd like in a situation like that.
I think they need to add somebody seriously.
They absolutely do, but it's kind of a shame that wide receiver 4 is not even really a wide receiver 3 to step up to that role for Darius Slayton to move over. So that was a weak room in the depth department to begin with. Now they really need to attack it somewhere around the league, waiver wire, something. But I imagine there'll be some wide receiver tryouts.
Every time I think of it, I'm just gutted. Not to compare ACL injuries, but when this happens to a guy in year 5 or year 6, it's damn, injuries happen. But we got to see, we saw a lot of football from this guy. Hopefully he comes back. When it happens this early in the season, this early in a guy's career, it just hit. It's like Saquon week 2 of his year 3, where you have this fantastic player. It's clear he's amazing. And we just have to go the entire season without him. And it's just a gut punch. And it's and then what is it going to look like when it comes back. Where like Saquon, when running back's a very different running back's a different position, but Saquon came back and he just was not his same self that first year. And then like you head into year 5 and it's like we have this great player and we've gotten 2 good years out of him. So hopefully that's not, where we're going to year 4 and you've had 1 good year out of Malik Nabers, but there's not much you can add about it, but it's just like, I can't believe we got to go 13 games without him.
It's terrible. Every team deals with these injuries, and you read about them and you think like, oh, that sucks for them. Like, what are they? But like once it happens to your team, you really feel the full gravity of it, where you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know how we move forward.
Right.
But you know what? Credit to the team for battling back, because that happened early on in the game, and they kept their heads up and stayed in this. I mean, of course, the Giants had to lead the entire game, never played from behind, but that could have been like devastating to morale, and they stayed together. So.
Yeah. Let's talk about the red zone offense, and then we'll get to mostly positive until we talk about Tyler Nubin and Deonte Banks towards the end of the show. 2 for 5 in the red zone, including twice where the defense put them at the 1 yard line through interceptions, and they actually got better in their red zone scoring percentage after 2 and 5. They were 2 for 10 coming in, so now they're 4 for 15, 20% to 27%. That's progress right there. So there's 2 issues here with the red zone offense. It's one, they just can't generate drive up front. Like it's as simple as that. And I want to talk about the rushing offense as a whole and how it has improved with Andrew Thomas. And the red zone is it's all about drive. There's no space. The linebackers are up at the line of scrimmage. The corners are usually condensed. Like you just need to get some type of push, and they can't. I mean, they had 7 rushing attempts with goal to go and had 6 rushing yards. Like that's unacceptable. And that's without like this one like negative 4 yard loss too. That's like their 4 yard run, 2 yard, 1, -1, 1, -1. And then in the passing game, I know it's Jaxson Dart's first game, and then Russell Wilson they have not put anything really in the quarterback's hands in the red zone passing game. Like they cut the field in half. Hell, like I know they scored the touchdown on the Theo Johnson play, so we don't remember, but it's like I kind of hate that play call. That could have taken a 2nd and goal at the 2 and very easily turned that into a 3rd and goal at the 4 or 5 if he gets hit in the backfield on that play. Like this, it's just everything is like, all right, all this designed to get to one guy, or it's cutting the field in half, and there's just no like drop back, make a decision passing game. And if there's any area where I've been the most disappointed with Mike Kafka taking over as a play caller, it's the red zone passing game. The rushing game, I can't put too much blame on him. And we asked after week 1, like just freaking pound it in from the 1, and they tried that, and that didn't work at all either today too. But the passing game is just they're not putting any decision making on the quarterback's hands through 4 games.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's the sequencing and the play calling is also driving me a little bit nuts. It's been tough, and I don't think that anything has been truly creative, whether it's run game stuff or if it's passing game stuff. The times they have Jaxson Dart keep things on those red zone plays, like nothing really feels creative. And I know we were saying like just line up and like pound it in, but for me that was just like that's always my when you get with inside the 5, especially when you're in like the 2 or the 1 or the 3, you know what I mean, like really close like that, which the Giants were often today. I want to run that play for just prove you can stop it first. If you can stop it, then I'll open up my playbook a little bit more. That's especially when you have a guy who bounces off tacklers like Cam Scatterbo, whatever. After that, like be creative, do something. The Wan'Dale Robinson drop that we were talking about on 4th down, like that was really just like a wide receiver drag that got blown up by I guess it was a linebacker just tossed Wan'Dale Robinson and the whole play fell apart. But like that's not really, like you said, it's like it's all designed to go to one guy, and if it's defended well, then the whole play falls apart. So it was almost a miracle that, and I think it was Jaxson Dart's feet in the backfield that even allowed that throw to happen, where he was able to buy some time and then play a little bit of street ball. Almost worked, didn't work, but I agree. The red zone has been brutal this year.
People are asking for more creativity. I actually think less creativity. Just run some regular passing concepts, like short yardage, right? Run mesh with a running back comes out. Like do stuff like that where it's just like, all right, boot to the right, design screen, shovel pass, end up being a touchdown. And then run the ball. Like that's all we're seeing in it. And again, I wish they could just run the ball and block up front and not have to get into these conversations as much, but they can't do that either. And that's on personnel more than coaching. The rushing offense, I will say though, has improved over the last 2 weeks. The interior offensive line is still not getting any push. JMS getting just blown up on that fumble was like, what is going on here? And I do think the offensive line outside of week 1 has been pretty good pass protecting. Like, I understand they have 5 sacks on the game. I thought a lot of those were Jaxson Dart's fault. They're not, they're giving each other time. Now they've had the benefit of playing 4 teams that don't have great pass rush outside the Chiefs, who's a little more Chris Jones driven and scheme with their pressure and stuff, but like they protected fairly well against them. The Commanders obviously got after it, but that was more of a James Hudson thing and Russell Wilson too. I guess the interior offensive line was terrible in week 1, but like they've been decent pass blocking, but the interior offensive line was getting just beat like crazy the first 2 games in the rushing offense. The last 2 weeks, it hasn't been like that. They're not getting push, but they are at least sustaining. And then I think Andrew Thomas has made a legitimate difference, plus the threat of Jaxson Dart's legs to hold it back to the defensive end. But on all these like successful runs, there's like a one common denominator. It's like Andrew Thomas on a down block is driving somebody 6-7 yards back on a double team. He's holding a defensive end to where the running back can cut back off of, or just drive blocking and they're working off of him. And it's helped create less negative runs. They haven't been this great rushing offense the last 2 weeks, but the running backs have had 207 rushing yards the last 2 weeks compared to 94 total in the first 2 weeks. So that's 103 yards per game from 47. That's literally over double the last 2 weeks.
The running game looks totally different than it looked beforehand, and some of that is definitely Jaxson Dart, but holes are being blown open. I think there's a ton of individual effort from running backs as well, not just Cam Scadaboo. I thought Devin Singletary had a couple of moments today. But as a group, you really can see their struggles in the red zone when there's no like room to draw people. Everything's just condensed, and like there's no other way around it. Like you have to go hat on a hat and you have to drive somebody backwards. Outside of the red zone, it was kind of amazing to find out that Cam Scadaboo didn't have 100 yards in this game, because it felt like he was running all over the place. And obviously, actually, he didn't even have 100 total yards, I don't think. If you add in like his receiving stuff, I think he was still just under. Jaxson Dart, I mean, they had over 100 yards on the ground between Scadaboo, Singletary, and Dart, but it felt like just watching it, like this actually looked like an offense that could run the ball. And really, it's mostly the skill players are disguising a lot of the interior offensive line's problems. But it's without a doubt, Andrew Thomas has a huge impact on the running game working. And I think like the 2 best run blockers on this team are the tackles.
Yeah, and it's not like Luminor is like an ass kicker either. But the running game, like you said, it went from like cannot run the ball to at least can not have your run game be a total negative. So, and I think part of growth in the week to week with the run game, Grump, is hydration.
Oh, dude, without a doubt, Body Armor played a massive role, not only in this game, but also in this show. And this game
first win of the Body Armor era.
Yeah, that's right. First win of the Body Armor era. This game day recap of a Giants victory is brought to you by Body Armor Sports Drink. Rewrite your routine and choose better with Body Armor. Body Armor is real hydration with electrolytes, coconut water, without any artificial dyes, flavors, or sweeteners. It's got great tasting flavors like strawberry, banana, and orange mango. Body Armor will level up your hydration game. Grab Body Armor Sports Drink today at your local grocery store. Body Armor, choose better. You'll be glad you did.
Go to your local grocery store, your local gas station. I'll be honest. We say grocery store. We all get them from the gas station. And I want you to tweet out victory body armor at Giants Nation Pod or Instagram or whatever. You'll be glad you did. I hate that we took 30 minutes to talk about this because this is what actually like won the game when we go back and look and not just talking about Jackson. Like if this was Jaxson Dart's 6th game, we would have started off with this probably. The pass rush. This is what we talked about this pass rush being in the offseason where we said, like, I understand this Giants team certainly not going to be a good team this year, most likely. But there should be games where if you just get to 20 points, the pass rush can win it. And I understand that the Chargers have, without Joe Alt, are possibly the worst offensive line in the NFL, which is as someone who's a big Jim Harbaugh fan, is a shame for my Chargers because that was like the strength of the team to now it's a total weakness. But the pass rush just got after Justin Herbert snap after snap after snap. It was brutal, and it led to a couple interceptions. The Dex play was more of a freak play, but like the Andru Phillips interception was because of a Brian Burns quarterback hit. Abdul Carter, so he had these numbers aren't official, but he was credited with 5 quarterback hits and 4 pressures. And we'll get official numbers tomorrow. I mean, he was winning all over the place. And it was the first game where they let him just play more defensive end. I went in my rewatch of the game. And, after the game, because I already had clipped up the Jaxson Dart plays, I went through them one time, taking notes, and then a third time, or a second rewatch, just kind of, putting down what I wanted to put for the show. And then, so when I did my rewatch of the defense, I was like, I'm going to focus in on Abdul Carter and his pressures. So there was 8 plays where I thought Abdul Carter had just a legitimate pressure, and obviously quarterback hits in there. Justin Herbert on those plays, Grump, 1 for 7 plus an intentional grounding. That's literally difference between winning and losing play right there for Abdul Carter, where if they have Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau as this team's pass rush, they have a good day today. I think what Abdul Carter turns it into a great day that allowed them to win games. We'll talk about Brian Burns certainly made a difference. He had a game-sealing sack, essentially. He had a quarterback hit on the Phillips interception, which does not happen without the pressure. That throw does not happen without the pressure. And, again, Carter just had his first game. It's a freaking shame they don't count intentional groundings as sacks because that was as clear of a sack as any, and he doesn't get the credit for it. It's just an offensive penalty.
Yeah, it's insane. He's not going to be recognized this week, around the league and nationally because he didn't put up any numbers. And that's some credit to Justin Herbert just being great, just being very, very good at getting rid of the ball, making quick decisions when things were falling apart. Only 2 sacks on the day, and it went to Kayvon Thibodeau on a cleanup sack and Brian Burns with a huge one. But Abdul Carter was winning play after play after play. He was living in Justin Herbert's face. This was one of those games that when I was kind of trying to envision the season, I thought that there would be a game or two where Carter would have something like this, but in my brain, I was just like, I could just see him being a tick late on everything and getting all these roughing the passer penalties. 0 of those today, not 1. So yeah, the numbers are going to come for him. They're going to come, and it's this defensive line is now somewhat of an asset. You have 2 really good edge rushers. You've got somebody that can move around all over the place with Carter added to the mix and Dexter Lawrence in the middle. It should be formidable and should worry every offense in the league as this team continues to grow. If they can keep Thibodeau around beyond this year, they have a lot to build off of.
And again, these numbers are unofficial, but through 4 games, he has PFF says 1 sack, but it's a half a sack, 7 quarterback hits, and 11 pressures, which is 19. Like, I'm looking at last year. I mean, that's basically what Aziz had last year, but Aziz had the sacks in 11 games. Like he's on pace to double what Brian Burns did, like of a total sacks, hits, and pressures last year. Double. So like he's just playing at an. I know the sacks aren't there. He had a big penalty today. He's had some frustrating plays at times, penalties. or not finishing the sack. But like, it's just clear this guy is legit. And he's, again, just scratching the surface. They haven't even been letting him play edge a ton, right? They've still been playing him at linebacker and on the inside and stuff. Like, just let him play more and more edge. And you're going to really see him continue to pop off. Brian Burns, I mean, he had a sack today on that stunt, which ended the game essentially. 3 quarterback hits. He's on pace, about, breaking numbers. He's on pace for 20 sacks. He has 5 sacks in 4 games. And this is a guy who's only had double digits one time in his entire career. And the quarterback hit, I actually liked more than the sack. That quarterback hit, he wins. They were trying to run a rub route, Grump. Like a sit with a wheel. It's kind of like the one where they early in the game of Russ to Malik Nabers against the Commanders, and the rub route gets totally blown up. The receiver falls, but because of that pressure and Herbert's waiting for that to open up, he just throws it, and Phillips keeps on covering it and intercepts it, and then brings it back to the 1-yard line. Like, again, this is where we talk about like this pass rush being allowing this defense to play better, and I do think Shane Bowen went after them a little more, was showing more double A gap looks and trying to just bring something different than what their basic man coverage has been. But this is a game where the pass rush just shows up. And I think it made a huge difference in coverage. Like Andru Phillips, 2 for 7 when targeting him, 10 yards, 1 interception, 3 pass breakups. That happened because the ball was getting out quick. If the ball's not getting out as quick, I don't think Phillips has the same great day. But a lot of it was Phillips play aggressive, fight for that inside leverage. And if the ball's coming out quick, well, you're going to get wins like that consistently, especially when they're targeting the slot. And, he was my pick for Giant Factor because they were going to target him a ton today. And to have his best, what I think is the best game of his career, as someone who wasn't like super high on him coming off of year one as others, and he's had a really bad start of the season. Like, I think this was the best game of his career.
I had said this too, like a great pass rush can cover up a multitude of other, issues in the back end. This is a young defensive backfield that is got a lot of problems, talent problems, time together problems. And this was a great group of receivers and a good quarterback that they went up against today with Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. This is a tough group for them to handle. And I mean, Justin Herbert throwing for 200 yards and 2 picks was not really on my bingo card today. So, yeah. And that's all thanks to the pass rush. Yeah. I would have absolutely died if Dexter Lawrence was able to seal a pick 6 in this game.
So this
fan base deserves a Dexter Lawrence pick 6.
That's funny. I was literally just getting ready to ask you, what was the atmosphere in the stadium when Dexter Lawrence takes in it? TV fell for the fake. And as soon as TV hung back, I was like, oh my gosh, one of the defensive linemen intercepted it. And it led to them not getting a touchdown either. He almost broke that tackle. Like, what was the atmosphere in the stadium when Dex has that almost pick 6, almost thick 6?
Sheer pandemonium. I mean, like, that was still early on in the game. We were kind of still jazzed up on like Jaxson Dart's opening drive was like really meticulous and just there's not one negative play. Like, they just marched right down the field. He runs it in from like the 15. Like, vibes are good. All right, let's see what's going on here. All right, we're hanging around. That was just like, I think that was the moment where people felt like around us, there was like, yo, I think we might win this game. Like, something like that happening is, I don't know. It felt like a pitcher hitting a home run and being in a crowd for that.
Yeah, I'm saying that, like, that's one of those, like, you're in the crowd and you remember, you're 20 years later, you're remembering like, oh, that was the game Dexter Lawrence had the interception that was almost returned for a touchdown. Unfortunately, the Giants couldn't freaking capitalize on it and score a touchdown, which I'm sure that made the crowd went from like super excited to like pissed off, being like, this damn red zone Kafka, what the heck is going on? But that was the moment where I was like, this might be our day. Like, opening script touch. We didn't even talk about this. Opening script, hurry up offense. As someone who has studied Dart like crazy, I'm like, that felt like every Ole Miss game ever. It felt like every Ole Miss game ever, especially in SEC, is like Opening script touchdown, slows down quite a bit after that. And then the next drive they punt, and then they have an interception that brings you, to the 3-yard line. You're like, okay, this might actually be our day. They're dropping passes. Joe Alt's injured. And then Greg Van Roten has a false start, and they end up kicking a field goal.
Yeah, that was wild. And like I said, this fan base absolutely deserved it. I would have loved to have seen the end zone dance, which I don't think I'll ever say that sentence again on this show because it's something I don't care about at all. But that would have been the moment, man. That just sucks. I think the Andru Phillips pick kind of got the crowd a little bit more jazzed up because that was like such a bigger return. There were just so many more facets to it. Like the Dexter Lawrence one, like that, sometimes that shit just happens. Like that's just like a fluky, like got my hands up, ball landed right in my hands. And because I'm on the defensive line and everything's behind me, I have like a free shot at the end zone. The Andru Phillips one, there were just so many, there was a huge collision between like the receivers, cornerbacks. There was pressure in Justin Herbert's face. He just kind of launched it. Andru Phillips, unbelievable. Just kind of sliding down, stays in his coverage route, and then gets up and just takes off. That one I think had, and I guess also time of the game, right? Like way further into the game. But that was like, the place was finally like really, really bumping.
Right. Now after that, after the Andru Phillips interception and the touchdown that followed, that's when I was like, oh gosh, the Giants are going to blow this. Like they're just going to blow it. You have that Amarian Hampton rushing touchdown. The one thing I said I was wrong about, main thing that I was wrong about from before season or preseason to regular season was like, oh, Wandale's going to be used a ton. Hasn't been used a ton the last 2 games, but I still think he's going to be used a ton. The other thing, dude, is Tyler Nubin.
Dude,
I remember his player profile. I think he might have even been the first or second episode of our player profile series was Tyler Nubin. And so that means you get a little more effort looking into stuff and you watch a little more film and look at some more stats. He has the most missed tackles in the NFL right now. 2 missed tackles today. And then I don't even think the terrible angle on the touchdown, the run for Hampton counts. We said like he went from and as a rookie, he was a competent player. A solid player. As year 2 and in become a playmaker. Well, he's turned into a negative now, where he's missing all these tackles consistently. He takes that terrible angle on the Hampton run. That's 2 long rushing touchdowns this year due to bad angles by Tyler Nubin. The Javonte Williams versus the Cowboys in this one. He's not making plays in coverage. He's not seeing things in zone coverage. Like he has been arguably like the worst starter on defense this year. When you think that Deonte Banks is not a starter, Bobby Okereke certainly hasn't been much better. Maybe defensive but I think he's been the worst starter on defense this year, which is sad because he was my pick for the breakout player this year. I was like, if there's any player who doesn't regress or isn't being overrated as a rookie, I was like, I think Nubin's going to be the breakout player. And I mean, he just looks flat out terrible, where he's not doing anything good and he's having way too many negative plays.
Yeah, I don't even think it's close. I think he's the worst player, the worst starter on defense this year so far. That angle was horrendous. I could see it a mile away. I feel like this has been a recurring issue with him outside of, the touchdown for Dallas and this one. I don't know if he overtrusts his speed or what, but I mean, in the second year, you should know where you rank speed-wise and closing speed against NFL players. Coming home from the game and rewatching the replay, like it just looks even more pathetic. It's really frustrating because it's like the one position that you just can't take that angle. Like you can't let that happen. I mean, that should have been no more than like a 10-yard run.
And again, just Bobby Okereke
right on the board.
Terrible job by Bobby Okereke on that play. Another player who's just went from what was an amazing first year off his free agent deal with the Giants to now he's another negative player on the team. Where he was in your top 10 players on the roster list before the season. Now he's, is he even in the top 15 at this point? He hasn't done anything. So Nubin is just disappointing. Now, and it's one thing like McKinney. despite McKinney having a great year too with 5 interceptions and really coming along, I thought his first 4 games he struggled. I thought he was making bad decisions in zone coverage. I think it led to some touchdowns, but it wasn't a guy who looked out of place at times. And that's what Nubin has looked like, where forget even the bad angle. Omari Hampton stiff arms him to the ground. A play that actually got called back due to a penalty, Omari Hampton runs him over. You just got to make more freaking plays. And he's looking like a guy who might be limited to the box safety because from deep, he's not making the plays in coverage, and he doesn't have the speed to, come down and win those open field tackles. So
it's hard to imagine a box safety that can't tackle, though.
Well, he can't tackle. He's missing these tackles in like open field where it's like he's in close control. I don't know. I feel like I guess you're right. But what I'm saying is like from in space, he's just been terrible, where that's what limited him, stopped him from being, what was viewed as like a first round safety, was the lack of the lack of athleticism. So need more from him. The other negative, and we'll finish off with some like big picture thoughts. What needs to be done for Deonte Banks to never see the field again? He's an unfocused player. Like, it's not just, he has bad ball skills, even though he had that interception that didn't count. It's not just, he's bad in coverage. It's just clear time after time after time. He is an unfocused player. It's 3rd and 18 and Justin Herbert's scrambling, and you just jump inside of a block and give him the first down. God. How many times have we seen that with Deonte Banks? Time after time after time. And then I get reminded of the Commanders game last year where it's end of the half. There's 27 seconds left, and you're in man coverage, and you give up a double move. Like, it's just, that is a player. He missed a tackle in this game too. Yep. That is a player who lacks focus, lacks understanding of the situation. He's just makes so many mental mistakes, that being with, losing at the release and bad ball skills and stuff. There's just so many mental mistakes that it's like, why is he ever on the field? Not to say Flott had some great game. Flott gave up a couple passes, but at what point do you just have to give up on him and stop playing him unless another corner gets injured?
I mean, I don't know. I think it just has to do with their current roster depth at the position is the only reason.
I think it has to do with him being a first-round pick. I mean, Flott is the starter. Flott's better than him. And why?
But Flott is the starter. You know what I mean? Like, they're putting him in on third downs because who else should come in on third downs? You know what I mean? Like,
they should just leave Flott in. They're rotating Flott out.
Nah. Yeah, then they should, because it's terrible. The double move is probably the worst play. You just give up a touchdown, just like there's a whole thing with like calling timeout before then, but whatever. We'll stay focused here. But I mean that's the worst play by far. But that jumping in on contain drives me insane, because from my angle too, it's just like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Like, just, you have all this real estate to funnel everything back into tacklers, and you just give him the outside.
It's a common theme with this team. I think it's coaching, but lack of focus from the player.
I mean, this is the same fundamental shit that you do in college. Like, it's not like this has anything to do with him being a younger player. Like, this is just basics. It's just basics and getting your head in the game, and his head's not in the game.
Yeah. All right, so Jaxson Dart, 1-0, dude. This, when we spent so much time talking about hypotheticals and the offseason, and this is like one of those hypotheticals that we talked up, Grump. And I remember even talking about it with some of the beat reporters on the bus, where it's like, there's this issue with the team, there's this issue with the team, but this pass rush should have some games where they just take over, and you don't need to have a good offensive performance or put up, 31 points. Like, you don't need corners to play amazing the entire game. Where it's like, this pass rush should just have games where they take over and they ruin it. And this was it. As soon as Joe Alt went out, before Joe Alt went out on our preview program, we said, you've got to dominate that right side of the offensive line. And this was it. This is a game where the offense, like, let's face it, this was a bad offensive game. They scored 21 points. 11 of those were off of interceptions that put them less within the 5-yard line. Right. So Did I get that right? Yes, because the other red zone one was off a regular drive. So outside of interceptions that got you within the 5-yard line, you scored 10 points on offense. Like that's not a good offensive game. Well, Jaxson Dart is being judged separately than an entire offense as a whole, but that defense put points on the board. It kept the Chargers from putting more points on the board. They're still a terrible run defense. They're the number 31 rushing defense coming into this game. And then they gave up 152 rushing yards on 13 attempts. They gave up 11. I don't know how I didn't see the stat in my prep. They gave up 11.7 yards per carry.
Well, I think the 54-yard run skews that.
Well, yeah,
I mean, I'm just saying, like.
Well, let's talk about it skewing it. So 13 for 52 and a 54-yarder skews it. So now we have, doing some math in my head, 152 minus 54, carry the 2 is 98. What's 98 divided by 12? Let's see, 60, 72, 84. It's like 8 yards per carry.
Yeah.
That's not good, man.
No, it's terrible.
But I'm just pumped that Jaxson Dart started off on a win. We've got plenty of season to judge him as a whole, and then hopefully a second year to judge him as a whole of what we got. But it just, I wasn't going to be able to live at 0-4, and then going into this Saints game, like viewing this as like if you lose this, then it's all hell breaks loose. And again, I think if they do lose to the Saints, all hell breaks loose. So go out and win that game. Because the Saints are 0-4 too, right?
Yeah, they lost. They put up a good fight against Buffalo, but they lost today.
Here, I'm looking up the stats. Here, let's do a quick preview pod of next week. Spencer Rattler, 126 passing yards. What a loser. Just kidding. That's a joke because we only had, I think as a team, we had like less than 100 passing yards when you consider all the sacks.
Yeah, maybe.
But very funny that Russ comes in and immediately gives up a sack. It's like, yep, there you are, my buddy. Like
that's where he just like bends forward and gives himself up. It's really pathetic. And
that's when on a preview pod Grump we said, like, I'm not sitting here saying Dart's going to do great, but like it opens up the playbook more. Where if Russ was the starting quarterback for this game, I would just be like, there's zero chance of winning this game. And I truly believe that if Russ is the starting quarterback in this game, the Giants, they score the 11 points that they got off of the turnovers. I don't think they do anything else. They obviously don't have that opening script. I mean, Dart's legs were a huge part of this. Mm-hmm. So shout out Jaxson Dart. You can say whatever you want about his first start, but if the guy who was supposed to be starting this season played, it's probably an L. So, I mean, anything else? I mean, how is the stadium? I know you're getting ready to head back to home. Where are you, by the way?
What, like, where am I sitting right now?
Yeah, because
I'm at my
bedroom to
studio. I went to my friend's basement. He has a music studio down here, so this was available for me today. And I hope it sounds better. There's tons of like diffusers on the walls and stuff.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah. The atmosphere was great. It was beautiful weather, just as Danny predicted. Like no.
Dude, we got to have an intervention with Danny. The weather he's getting so bad at predicting the weather.
There were 2 planes in the sky, both with just ads. Thought that was interesting.
I got to say something. I keep on interrupting you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's a problem. It's a problem I have. I think I'm in on the conspiracy theory that the Giants are paying off the plane companies. Like I called.
Oh yeah, you like that one?
Because, like, we got to do the damn positive plane. And I was not looking for planes today. They were canceled due to weather. Like, the planes, that like, at least one of them, I think there was, like, 2, maybe 3. At least one of them was canceled due to weather. And it was, I mean, I saw the Ralph Vacchiano picture. I was like, this is the clearest skies I've seen.
Maybe it was too bright to fly.
Yeah. It's like, I'm kind of in on the conspiracy theory that, like, these planes are between like $1,800 to $2,300 that the Giants were like, here's $20,000 to get through the season. No more,
Yeah.
at least or whatever. Like that's a drop in the bucket for the Giants.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I pulled that conspiracy theory out of my ass, but it was also when I did it, it was only like 10 in the morning. So I was like, maybe it's coming. I don't know.
And I'm an anti-conspiracy theory guy. When people start talking conspiracy theories to me, I'm just like, how do I get out of this conversation? You may be right. I'm not going to be the one that proves it. I'm sorry. Even if I agree with you, there's nothing I can do about it. I'm kind of in on this one. Like the Giants are paying off the
local plane companies.
Yeah, or maybe they just listened to the show and they just heard Danny's weather report and like, oh, gonna be
Wait, all the pilots out there.
Yeah, they just listened to that's their weather report for the day. Is they listened to the Giants Nation show weather. So Danny King held back the planes.
Well done, Danny. Vibes were great at the stadium. People were excited, and people were going in with like reasonable expectations for Dart. Like everybody I talked to was like, I'm not expecting him to light everything up, but it's nice to just see what we have, and I'm excited to see what happens. There was some "Let's Go Giants" chants going up the escalator. People were not flat. I don't know how loud it was on TV. It seemed like it was pretty decently loud. There were definitely some loud moments. There was a point where the Chargers had 2 back-to-back false start penalties. I don't really think that the crowd had like 100% to do with that, but it was loud in that moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything, it felt like a normal football team, which it's really sad to say, but the harsh reality is that like it hasn't felt like that in a long time. It's always felt like everybody is sort of cynical and sarcastic and just waiting for the bottom to fall out. Like crowd was all in it today.
Yeah, I'm just glad they got the win. I was thinking, Grump, you think we should live stream next game?
Yeah. The Saints game?
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
long as I can't imagine I can't. So as long as I can, I don't give a shit. That's fine.
All right, we'll talk about it. All right, so we appreciate you guys. Again, share this show with your friends. If you made it to the end and you're not liking, subscribing, then it's like,
are you doing?
Are you actively trying to harm us? Because that's what it feels like if you're
pulling a Banks.
Yeah, if you're listening to the end, or maybe you're just unfocused, like you said with Deonte Banks. So get your head in the game. We will see you guys on Wednesday for a mailbag, Friday for a preview pod. Again, I'm doing a Jaxson Dart first game film breakdown, which will be out sometime on Monday. Film review on patreon.com/GiantsNation on Tuesday evening. Also, I do want to say this because I saw something about it. I know that this is live, these podcasts. We're not reading. I put it on for the last 2 minutes. We're not reading the chats. It's a podcast. We cannot be looking at the chat. It'll make us unfocus on the other person and stuff. But that's just not what we're doing. It's we're talking through our podcast. It's like you guys weren't here, even though you're here and we appreciate you. So we'll see you guys on Wednesday. Until then, let's go Big Blue.